Ladies and gentlemen, let's start with our today's gathering. My name is Radovan Vávra and I'm your today's host, and I'm really excited to welcome and introduce to you extremely interesting panel of speakers. But before I do that, I obviously have to extend a very warm personal thank you to the one who's organized all that. Ambassador of the Swiss Republic in the Czech Republic, Mr. Gay. Thank you very much. Thank you. And now, let me turn to our panelists. Right in the center, I'm sure everybody knows Mr. Bertrand Piccard, the president and founder of the Solar Impulse. Welcome in Prague.
Thank you very much.
Soňa Jonášová, Quebec. David Avery. Petra Baladares Perez. Frédéric Clauss. And last not least, Mirek Lizec. Obviously, we have prepared for you a formal keynote. We have prepared for you tons of presentations, but we would be extremely happy if this was an interactive afternoon. If at any point in time you feel like saying something, asking something, putting any questions to our panelists, please don't hesitate and do so. We have microphones all over this room, and we want to get the most out of this whole thing. So without further ado, let me introduce Mr. Ambassador Philippe Gay once more and ask him for a short speech.
Thank you, Mr. Vávra. Excellencies, dear colleagues, Mr. Director, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you very much for your interest tonight and your participation despite the tragedy which is currently sweeping our continent. At first sight, our event this evening may seem out of place when we consider what is happening a few hundred kilometers away. But at the same time, it is precisely such dramatic events that emphasize the importance which must be given to clean technology. In order to reduce our dependence on imported energy from Russia, it is essential not only to diversify our energy suppliers, but above all, to foster green technologies. So I would like to express my sincere thanks to Bertrand Piccard, the world-famous Swiss environmental inventor and clean technology pioneer, for taking the time to travel to Prague and to inspire us with his experience and knowledge. Mr. Piccard is to air adventure and to air pioneering what Roger Federer is to tennis. I would like to thank also the other panelists from the Czech Republic as well as from Switzerland for their active participation, and to Mr. Radovan Vávra in particular to take over the moderation tonight. Last but not least, I would also thank the staff of the Congress who made it possible this event to happen tonight. This was by no means taken for granted, considering that these premises are currently fulfilling the vital task of providing first assistance and relief to the war refugees from Ukraine. To conclude, I invite you to visit the exhibition Can Tech Save the World, which is actually located on the ground floor, exactly 2 floors below us at the entrance number 4. This exhibition is to be seen until Friday, and afterwards it will travel all over the country the next 18 months. Finally, you are invited to join us for a reception after this panel and to share with us some Swiss wine. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. And as we are here in the heart of the Czech Republic, let me welcome Mr. Karel Bláha of the Czech Ministry of Environment to address us.
Excellency, panelists, ladies and gentlemen, it is not only a great honor for me to greet you on behalf of the Minister of Environment, Mrs. Anna Hubáčková, but it's also a great pleasure to meet so many outstanding people. I really do look forward for the discussions, for the presentations. You can imagine that the Minister of Environment is trying to be a sort of leading force in the process of Green Deal, which is now, unfortunately, quite substantially endangered by the current war in Ukraine. Ambassador has mentioned that next door we see the people who had to escape. I am 70 years old, but I am happy I didn't see the war on these grounds. I'm not covered, but I'm not brave enough to say this is not going to happen, because it may happen. Besides that, we keep going. We do our best to develop legal instruments, incentives in economic part of the process to achieve a better, cleaner, healthier world. I think that that's the intention of all of us, and I hope we will learn a lot from this seminar. Just for the example, and in conclusion of my brief intervention, I'm leaving to Bali, Indonesia, for a fourth meeting, conference of parties of the Minamata Convention, which has been developed for the protection of human health and environment against mercury. By origin, in my previous life, as I said before I became the governmental bureaucrat, I used to be a scientist in experimental toxicology. And mercury was my main topic in my hobby. So I really look forward the next week to improve the convention by adopting the decisions going in the direction the convention prescribes. So thank you very much. Thanks you, of course, you, Switzerland. As I told the ambassador before we started, our delegations are always in touch with the Swiss delegation because, frankly speaking, Switzerland is sometimes a really engine, a leading force in difficult negotiations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bláha. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment we all been waiting for, the keynote of Mr. Bertrand Piccard.
You show the film first?
Yep. Please show the film.
Every dream in history was considered impossible until it had been accomplished. Behind each achievement, explorers have invented the future by going beyond the frontiers of certainties. They have broken the rules, challenging common assumptions to discover new solutions. Today, solving the environmental crisis seems out of reach. We need the same pioneering spirit that has in the past allowed mankind to achieve the impossible. This is how we will find the solutions to change the world. Bertrand Piccard, the visionary behind Solar Impulse, wanted to demonstrate the incredible potential of renewable energies and clean technologies. Solar Impulse was built to carry this message around the world.
Hello, Solar Pulse. Hello, Captain Piccard. I am inspired by your pioneering spirit.
You know, Mr. Secretary General, if an airplane like Solar Impulse can fly day and night without fuel, the world, of course, can be much cleaner.
Hotel India Bravo, turning final, 0 to right. More than an achievement in the history of aviation, Solar Impulse has been an achievement in the history of energy. Let's take it further.
What can be done in the sky can be done on the ground. Replacing old and polluting infrastructure by modern and efficient technologies is logical as much as ecological. Convinced that protection of the environment will become a reality only if it's economically viable, Bertrand Piccard has launched the second phase of his action, committing the Solar Impulse Foundation to identify 1,000 solutions that can protect the environment in a profitable way. Developed by startups and corporates, these solutions reduce pollution and improve efficiency in the fields of water, energy, construction, mobility, industry, and agriculture for a better quality of life. Assessed by independent experts and labeled by the Solar Impulse Foundation, they represent the market opportunity of the century, generating jobs and clean growth. In the near future, Bertrand Piccard will travel around the world again to present this unique selection of solutions with one goal: encourage governments, businesses and institutions to go beyond compromise and set more ambitious environmental targets and energy policies. Here again, the spirit of exploration has a role to play in achieving what many people still consider impossible. And you can be a part of it.
Good afternoon to everyone. Have you noticed that people believe only what they see? There is a war, but you understand there is a war because you see 300,000 people coming to the Czech Republic to find safety and hope. But there are a lot of specialists who are saying that with climate change, there will be 200 million refugees who will have to escape from countries who will be unlivable because too hot, too dry, too wet, fires, hurricanes, no food, starvation. And we don't believe it because we don't see it yet. And for 50 years, we've been told we have to protect the environment for future generations. But does it really help the people of today to change their behavior today for the sake of the future generations? Yeah, the people who are not selfish will do it, but most of the people will not do it. So we're in a situation where for 50 years the protection of the environment has been presented as something for the future that costs a lot of money, that is very boring, that is very sacrificial. People have to renounce to their mobility, to their comfort, to their quality of life, to economical growth. It was not very stimulating. And this is why I think we have to change the narrative of the protection of the environment. We have to show that it is not only for future generations that we have to do something. It is for today, for our generation. We have to show that it is not something expensive that's going to cost a lot of money. No, we have to show it is something economically profitable that will create jobs and allow economic growth. We have to show that it's not boring, but exciting, a fantastic opportunity for innovators to grow, to bloom, fantastic opportunities for the industry to take new businesses, new opportunities. But is it realistic to say that, or is it a wishful thinking? And this is the type of reflection I had when I was flying in Solar Impulse. Can you imagine the situation? There was an experimental airplane able to fly day and night without fuel. And when I was watching at the big propellers turning left and right of the cockpit, there was no noise, there was no pollution, there was no fuel, and I could fly forever. And I promise you, there's a moment I had to pinch myself because I was thinking, it's a dream. I'm dreaming. It's not the reality. I'm in a science fiction movie. I'm pushed into the future suddenly. And of course, it was the present. It was not a dream. It was reality. It was what the technologies, the clean technologies of today, allow us to do today. And this is something that completely changed my vision of the world, because I understood suddenly that if I was not in the future but in the present, with these fantastic clean technologies and renewable energies, it meant that it was the rest of the world that was in the past. And just imagine how true it is. The world today is living in the past, with thermal engines for mobility, which have an outcome of 27%. It means 73% of the gasoline you put in your car is wasted by the losses of friction, heat, and resistance. We live in a world where buildings are so badly insulated that we lose all the heat or the cold outside. We have inefficient heating, cooling, and lighting systems. We have outdated industrial processes. We have dirty ways to make electricity by burning fossil fuels. Are we proud of that? This is the world. So we wave bravely our latest smartphone to make believe that we are modern, but everything else was invented 120 years ago at the beginning of the oil era. And this has to change. This is the main problem. The main problem is not that we have a good quality of life. It's not that the economy is working well. The problem is that 75% of the energy produced is wasted, half of the food, half of the natural resources, and 95% of the waste. They are wasted because nobody understands that it's, or let's say not enough people understand that it's a resource in itself. So we are in a linear economy where we extract, produce, consume, and throw away. It's not only stupid for the environment, it's stupid in terms of economy. Because it's clear that we cannot continue like this without destroying our natural resources. So basically, what do we need? We need to change everything, all the infrastructures and all the systems of our world. So if you say we have to change everything, you have people who are afraid because people hate change. People resist to change. People have their habits, their comfort zone, and they want to keep what they know. So it's not psychologically good to say we have to change everything. And I would like you, when you explain all this, that you use another word. We have to modernize everything instead of changing everything. And if you say we have to modernize everything, then you create an enthusiasm. Like people say, okay, yes, that's great. How can we be more modern? Well, we can be more modern by using clean technologies to make the world efficient. So when the question asked by the ambassador of Switzerland, Philippe Gay, for this panel is, can clean tech save the world? The answer is yes, clearly. But we have to understand what are clean technologies. Because clean technologies alone are not enough. They need to be used at the right place, at the right moment, by the right people, with the right political decisions. So in other words, you have a lot of resistance against renewable energies by people who say it will never be enough to respond to the needs of humankind. Well, the needs of humankind are 4 times what they really need if we waste 75% by inefficiency. So if we start by using technologies that save energy, save resources, be efficient in the industry, in the agriculture, in the construction business, then renewable energies will be enough, absolutely enough. But of course, we walk on 2 legs, and in the clean tech, there are 2 legs. One is the production of the energy, second one is the saving of the energy. And I give you the anecdote of the reaction of the world of aviation when I asked to airplane constructors to build solar impulse. They told me it's impossible to have enough energy from the sun to propel an airplane day and night. That's the paradigm where we only speak of production. Well, we did not increase the power of the sun, but we decreased the consumption of the airplane. And we built the most efficient airplane ever, with its 72 meters of wingspan, very lightweight, extremely efficient engines, 97% of efficiency, and we could cope with the little energy the sun was giving. So you see where we have to act in our world. And to summarize, I think we are, as human beings, like a stupid guy in a bathtub with a leak in the bathtub. And instead of solving the leak, that means being efficient, the guy opens the tap wide open to compensate the leak and adds more water. This is what we tend to do. It's not economically viable to always produce more. It's clear that today the new business model is about saving, reducing the consumption. Unfortunately, the solutions exist to do it, to save resources, to save energy in absolutely every field. We have a unique moment in the history of humankind where the solutions exist and the solutions are profitable. I insist very much about the fact that it is profitable. Because if you speak to people in the governments who have the need to create jobs, otherwise they are not re-elected, or CEOs of big companies who have the task of making profit, otherwise they're kicked out by the shareholders. If you tell them, protect the environment, they will say, yes, I know we should, but we cannot do it. But if you say you will create more jobs and make more profit by being efficient and using renewable energies that have now become cheaper than fossil fuels, then they can answer yes. And this is why we have created with the Solar Impulse Foundation, as you have seen in the little film, this challenge of identifying more than 1,000 solutions that can do exactly this. Protect the environment and be profitable, and exist today. I insist on the fact that it has to exist today, because there is a tendency that says, oh, the solutions will come. We're very confident in the creativity of humankind. So we can continue to pollute, we can continue to waste, because solutions will come later on. No, that doesn't work. Technology should not be an alibi to continue the mistakes of today. It should be a solution to modernize completely what we are doing today. So when you see the field of water, of energy, of industry, agriculture, construction, mobility, everywhere there are solutions, and you will hear some of them who are representing new technologies in this panel. And at the entrance of the Congress House, you will see a lot of panels showing the different type of solutions. It's just a sample of everything that exists. Imagine there are 1,350 of them, plus all the ones that we have not yet identified and that we are continuing to select and to bring in this portfolio. So our goal with this new quantity, enormous quantity of solutions, is to go around the world a third time, not with a balloon, not with a solar airplane, but with this guide of solutions and meet governments and big corporations to give them the solutions. And I say give them, we're not selling anything, it's a non-for-profit. So we give them the solutions that they can use to reach their targets. So we met the Minister of Environment this morning, the Mayor of Prague this afternoon, as I met the Prime Minister of India, President of France, and so on, just to tell them, you have put ambitious goals, perfect, but how are you going to do it now without knowing exactly what are the solutions? And the solutions we can provide them by bringing all these fantastic group of innovators to bring what people need to be more efficient and more profitable. So you see that it's a new way to understand economical growth. Today, economical growth is still linked to the quantity of consumption and waste. But we can decouple it from the quantity of consumption to couple it with the quality of the efficiency. It starts to be now so profitable to save resources that you increase your profit and you can pay for the upfront investment. And this is what I like to call qualitative growth. Qualitative growth is when you create jobs and make money in the factory and also for the public to increase the purchase power by replacing what is polluting by what is protecting the environment. And today, you can do that either by asking people to stop to live, stop mobility, stop everything, but nobody wants that, or by providing the clean technologies that allow this modernization. So this is why it's vital to speak about these clean technologies, about these renewable energies, about the spirit of pioneering. So when this panel here is included into the World Environmental Education Conference, I think it's good, because education should not be just about teaching children who will take 30 or 40 years before being in the position to be a key decision maker. No, we also have to educate the adults, educate politicians, educate CEO of big corporations, business people, finance people, and show them really what can be the new pioneering spirit of today and make it exciting. Because can you imagine how exciting it is to be at the right moment, at the right place, with the right solutions? How can we miss it? And our goal is, or should be, to make as many ambassadors as possible of this way of thinking. Because you are here in this room, because you know about clean technology, because you're interested about it. A lot of people are not. The entire world is not in this room. So we have to bring them in the room, or we have to go outside and speak about it and bring this message, that it is not only for the environment, it is also for the industry. It's also for the political world as an advantage to be better, to make a better quality of life, to make a better economy, and to make a better environment. So it's a responsibility, of course, but it's fantastic. You admired this solar airplane flying? Well, you can be pilots of exactly the same spirit. You don't need to have the solar airplane. This has been done. Now you can be the pilots of clean technologies, the pilot of renewable energy, the pilots who are leading the world in a better direction. So this is what I really wish to encourage. Thank you for being here, but don't think the story starts at the end of the panel. The story will start when you will be the ambassadors of this message. Good luck and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Piccard, for this fascinating speech. And I'm sure I'm expressing feelings of everybody here that, yes, we are all getting motivated, but what is most important is to hear those words from somebody who's achieved those things, from somebody who is not just dreaming it up, but from somebody who's been there. So thank you very much for coming to Prague and sharing this with us. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our second speaker this afternoon is my colleague on my left-hand side, Ms. Petra Baladares-Perez, Business Development Manager of Ecotech Czech Invest. Petra, it's yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Patrik Reichl, the director of Czech Invest, couldn't be here with us today. He apologizes for his absence. I had to step in on a last moment, and I hope I will be a sufficient replacement. So, as was said, my name is Petra Baladares, and at Czech Invest I work as Business Development Manager of Ecotech. And at the beginning, I would like to express what an honor it is to be here today and to be part of this event and be here next to these great speakers, Mr. Piccard and other honorable speakers. And please let me open today's sessions with a very brief overview of the current state of green technologies in the Czech Republic. I would like to highlight that the Czech Republic believes in the industry based on clean technologies, and it takes the current climate crisis as an opportunity for innovation. As part of the European Union, we stand side by side with other EU countries, and we support EU commitment to tackle climate crisis. And the famous European Green Deal is a response to these challenges. It sets out a detailed vision how to make Europe the first carbon-neutral continent by decarbonizing energy production, by transitioning towards clean mobility, by establishing circular economy and building in an energy and resource-efficient way. All of this while boosting the EU industry competitiveness and while ensuring a just transitions for regions affected. Czech Republic is the second most industrialized country of European Union, and this factor counts for rather higher greenhouse gas emissions per capita, as you can see here. Therefore, the aspiration to become carbon neutral country, it can be more challenging for us. We are at the point that we will have to make essential changes, especially within our energy production, transportation and industry, that count together for almost 70% of greenhouse gas emissions. The Czech Republic will need to accelerate its decarbonization in order to achieve the goals set by Green Deal, as we can see here. The Czech government recently pledged that it will phase out coal sooner than originally anticipated, by 5 years before the previous target recommended by the Czech Coal Commission. However, we will see what current crisis in Ukraine will do with that plan and whether the schedule will have to be adjusted. The Czech Republic faces some geographical constraints when switching towards renewables. We don't have access to sea. We can't build these big wind power plants. We have considerably less sunlight than our eastern neighbors. During the winter seasons, the number of sun hours drops significantly. However, the solar and wind power is considered to have a high potential of growth. According to the Environmental Center at Charles University, it can be increased by 5 times in case of solar energy production and by 7 times in case of wind power energy production by 2030, which is a good news. The Czech Republic currently produces 13% of its electricity by renewables and 37% by nuclear power plants. We pledged to increase the utilization of renewables to 22% by 2030, and our future energy mix count on nuclear power as well. Therefore, we welcomed the decision to include nuclear power into the EU taxonomy, although under strict conditions and with some restrictions. A large-scale utilization of renewables inevitably requires energy accumulation and grid stabilization. The Czech Republic continues to build sustainable and globally competitive battery value chain. The Czech battery cluster is currently being formed, and it will unite companies and R&D institutions that develop, produce, and recycle battery energy storage system and batteries for electric vehicles as well as for industrial use. This includes production of batteries of distinct technologies, of course the lithium-based, but also other technologies such as redox flow batteries and others. We also have our strategy for hydrogen technology, and we see hydrogen and hydrogen technologies as a main tool to achieve all the targets that were set by the European Green Deal. The main goal of the strategy is to support the development and subsequent utilization and implementation of economically available hydrogen technologies. The hydrogen industry are concentrated mainly in 2 regions, Ústí nad Labem and Moravian-Silesian region, and companies as well as R&D meet on the existing platform, the Czech hydrogen technology platform that has supported this industry since 2007. The Czech Republic also has its strategy for circular economy. It was prepared by the Ministry of Environment in cooperation with OECD. The transition plan covers various areas: product design, raw materials, waste management, also circular cities and infrastructure, and so on. I'm sure that today we will hear about a new, very proactive platform that is currently being formed by the Circular Economy Institute, that is the Czech Circular Hotspot. And overall, we can see that there are new companies that bring sustainable solutions that are emerging, but we can also see that existing companies adopt circular approaches. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the beginning of another industrial revolution, at the end of which the Czech Republic can be the leader in green technologies. We have the best preconditions to succeed. We have wide R&D infrastructure, good skilled workforce. We have innovative companies that meet on existing platforms and look for new solutions that are sustainable. I believe that we can achieve it, and in Czech Invest we are here to support this transition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's extremely encouraging to realize that the Czech Republic has got a clear, well-articulated roadmap to a clean future. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce David Avery, who will be our next speaker. David is head of Cleantech, Switzerland Global Enterprise, and his view will be the view of somebody who is actually doing it.
Thank you. So, Your Excellency, guests, panelists, thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak to you here today. And, of course, before I start, let me really encourage you to visit in detail the exhibition, which, of course, has so many fabulous examples of different technological ideas and, of course, is the basis for what we are interested in here today. As Mr. Piccard said, it's not really a question of if, it's a question of how. And I want today to share with you some ideas about those technologies and about how that might be. At Switzerland Global Enterprise, which is the official export promotion agency where I work, we are represented around the world in different regions and have offices around the world. In 3 different regions in Switzerland. Our goal really is, in a very, shall we say, more humble way, also to learn about all those technologies that there are in Switzerland, and in detail to look at how we can help bring those technologies to use in the places where they're needed. So our role is to foster that next step and to provide the support necessary to make those successful in the countries where they can be used and where they can have the maximum effect. And to that respect, we're just a big family, working together with many different partners to help create the links and create the trust and the mechanisms necessary to bring companies to the markets. And why should I be here today talking about Swiss innovation? I think this diagram is extremely telling. It shows that Switzerland has that pioneering spirit, of which we have the most fabulous examples, that pioneering spirit that has provided a history of innovations. And that is, of course, not really something that happens by chance. It's based on also a massive network of different institutions that are actively working on ideas, working on basic research, working on applied research, spinning off and supporting organizations such that they become the companies that we can and I can then support to bring to the market. And I would like just to highlight a couple of examples at the top right of the screen. EMPA, working in the building sector with demonstrators trying to look at the future of living, clearly also looking at what is possible today. People like ETH, which is world-renowned for many sectors. CSCM, super well-known for its contribution to solar, and we will hear some of the outcome from that research and how that can be put into practice later. But also people like PSI who are working on hydrogen technologies and not listed here, but is also the Swiss Battery Center looking at the future of storage technologies, which will be an essential component of bringing renewables to scale across different markets. So for Switzerland, clean tech is key. Of course, that is the reason why we put together this exhibition. We want to tell the world what's possible today. We want to help bring it to scale. We really want people to see what is possible and that transition can move faster. And for Switzerland, we have been working on this for more than 10 years. And of course, many companies for probably 10 years before that, trying and growing, gaining experience with different technologies and moving forward. And that means that today, clean tech is already a very major sector for Switzerland, as you can see on the current slide here. And whilst I will not go into detail and give examples of many sectors, one thing I really would like to highlight is this idea of smart cities. Because for me, the smart city is like a microcosm which needs all those other technologies. It needs energies, it needs mobility, it needs water, it produces waste which therefore needs to be processed. And of course, that provides the opportunity, but that also provides the need, and that's of course the economic need as well. That's why these things can be put into place and why they can be developed successfully. And of course, as I said, it uses a huge number of technologies and a whole number of enabling technologies such as IoT, maybe blockchain and other technologies that we're going to bring into the mix that are going to help develop the future of smart cities. As you can see, Switzerland has 2 of the top 7 smart cities, and we see here in this survey effectively just how many localities in Switzerland are actively engaged in driving this forward. And that should be no surprise, although what may be a surprise to you is that over 70% of people living in Switzerland live in urban areas, and that number is growing actually by nearly 1% per year. So although that might be a surprise, Switzerland actually is also urbanizing each year. So, I'd like to just share, don't want to share these, but I do want to share this, which is to say that essentially we have nearly 100 companies who are actively investing in and looking at the Czech market from the clean tech sectors that are represented here. And I think that's a very important message to leave, is that Switzerland is actively looking at different markets and, of course, is active already in many markets across Europe. And for me, that is very important, because that is the basis on which we grow. So, that brings me back to the exhibition. The exhibition is a source of information, but of course there are other sources of information. And I encourage you to take these links or contact me afterwards for them. And I'm happy to share with you more information about different sectors and other sector reports that have been produced. And of course, to answer your questions, to help you maybe find partners to the questions that you have, because our goal is to foster collaboration. And I think it is in that spirit that we are all here today, and of course it is with that message that I wish to leave you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. Our next speaker is Ms. Soňa Jonášová, who is the founder and director of the Circular Economy Institute.
Thank you very much for your invitation and for introducing me. Well, I do not have my presentation. I think that 5 minutes I can manage without the pictures, so I hope that I will leave some messages for you. And it's also very difficult to prepare presentations if you do not know your audience before. But as I see when I was listening previous great speakers, and thank you very much for inspiration, which is what I really always take into consideration. That's why I'm taking so many notes. For me, the biggest inspiration was my visit in the Netherlands. I'm also very happy to still be in touch and close cooperation with Dutch Embassy, because I was studying at the Agriculture University, and I was studying how to keep animals in a cage to get as much productivity as possible. And then I moved to the Netherlands, and I was studying about organic agriculture, about permaculture, about how to feed the world in an organic way. And I can tell you that was a big shock for me, because you are learning about totally new paradigm, about new technologies. You are discussing with your teachers, and you are always being pushed to go beyond your own imagination, beyond the borders. And that was also the time when I've learned for the first time about circular economy, My first dream was to have a self-sufficient farm, to show that it's possible to run a farm without extra fossil fuels, for fertilizers, and that I can keep animals with a welfare approach, and that I can really build up on a really high-level production with high added value, with proceeding the food afterwards. But when I saw the concept of circular economy, it made totally sense for me to connect these organic cycles with technical cycles and do the same what's normal for nature in our current world. And from my dream to have a self-sufficient farm, I have a dream that I can also build up a bit on self-sufficiency on Czech Republic, Europe, and the global ratings, I would say. I mean, if you hear about self-sufficiency, it's also good to say something about so-called overshoot day. This is the day when we are taking as much as is ready for us for the whole year, and the rest of the year we take it as it is for granted. And for Czech Republic, it's the 12th of April already. And then we consume, I would say, something what belongs to the next generation or what belongs to the next year. So as was said before, the first thing to do right now is to really discuss about how effective is our economy. As you said, do we really need so much energy to cover consumption during the night, or can we do something better? In circular economy, we see that the highest potential is about reusing materials. Then it's about making less products. It will be a huge discussion about producing less. It will be really disturbing for many sectors. But it means to also bring new business models. I don't think that we all have to own a car. If you've been parking around the Prague, you already see how big problems we have with that. But I also think that we can combine it with a high level of living for next generation and for us ourselves. But we have to really have in mind how much materials we are consuming. Right now in Czech Republic, it's a common discussion that we are running out of building materials in upcoming 5 to 10 years. When we've been starting this discussion, for me it was like, are we really just discussing that it's like, we will be run of materials in 10 years, what else? We do have strategies, but I have to say that we do not have enough innovators or those guys, women, men who will take it into consideration and who will really help to change the business plans. That's why we are right now in INSEAD having like a 5 pillars strategy. We are a not-for-profit organization raised from bottom-up approach that I really believe in. And we call it Acta X. You might know this. There was a TV series, and it was about 2 agents usually solving problems that were called unsolvable, impossible. And we are focusing on 5 pillars, like Acta and X, which means academy, really bringing innovations based on data-based knowledge, doing analysis that we can spread around, but also teaching people how to do so. We do consultancy if it's needed, if it's something that we understand. We have a think tank that we are bringing and opening questions. Right now we are, for example, working on the strategy for decarbonization of Czech industry through circular economy. And then we have also advocacy. I really believe that the Czech NGOs should be more focused on lobbying, because if you are working on waste management, you see the lobby that you have against you. They have unlimited resources. They have unlimited experiences. They've been running their business for 30 years, and it's really hard to change without having at least a bit of power to have discussions with them. And the last, but the most important for me right now, the X is like creating networks of organizations that was mentioned before that can really work together. And I'm really happy that with these networks we can start with small pilots, and I will just introduce one that is that came to my mind when I was listening to previous speakers. It was in 2016. I was sitting at the restaurant with my ex-colleague, and it was in Brno. And he was telling me, you know, I had, well, this is not my ex-colleague. It was my ex-just friend. Now he's a colleague. he was telling me, I had a dream that I saw it in Norway or Finland, that from sewage sludge you can create a bio-CNG and the buses can be self-sufficient, and the city can promote self-sufficiency to their inhabitants by running these buses, and they can have some extra price for public transportation. And Brno has amazing conditions for that because they are just before to start to renovate wastewater treatment. And I was telling him, so why not to try to do so? And from that time, it took us at the end like 4 years to go around all the stakeholders without any money, just with this small idea to create a pilot project that we will convert sewage sludge into bio-CNG through some special technologies, through nanotechnologies, and that we will just show off that it's possible. And everybody was telling us that it can't be done because it's too expensive, it's too complicated, and nobody's going to be interested. But at the end, it was like 3 months pilot, and at the end, we were able to change a bit of legislation that then it can be multiplied to other cities. It was without any money, and as you said, if you are collecting these great examples and you are just promoting them, there are others that are willing to implement them because they could make a business sense. At that time, it wasn't really profitable. Right now, we are discussing how to multiply it to make self-sufficiency higher through these circular economy principles. But what I like you to go home with is exactly what Bertrand was saying. First, we have to look at society in a way how effective we are. We are wasting so much. We are wasting food, energy, we are wasting construction materials. In Czech Republic, 90% of construction waste is going to landfill. We call it recycling, even though we use it for building the sides of the landfills. And we should be focused on data and real data we have right now. But I also agree with the clean tech that we can kind of save the world, but we have to start with us. I mean, if you know how we are consuming right now, and you know that in 12th of April, that will be overshoot day for Czech Republic, we should think about how much we really need to cover all our needs, and we should discuss about new business models that can really change the way how we are producing right now. I would call us like throwing society, not knowing the real value, but I believe that with such great speakers, and not just speakers, but innovators, we can do so. So thank you very much for your time, and if you would be interested, as Petra was saying about Czech Circular Hotspot, let us know, and also thank you for Czech Invest in believing and cooperating with us to make it bigger. Thank you.
Sonia, thank you very much. Unfortunately, time is running really late, and before handing over to our dear colleagues, please, Mr. Piccard, let me ask you for your closing remark from your point of view.
Well, my closing remark is not a closing remark because the panel continues, but it's my obligation to say goodbye to you because I have to catch an airplane. It's an airplane that is not solar, so I'm still flying with the past. But I hope that next time I can come with a plane of the present. And there is one plane from Czech Republic, which is Bristol, which has been electrified by André Borschberg, my colleague from Solar Impulse. So you see that even in aviation, the Czech Republic is pioneering. So I really apologize that I have to leave. There will still be other speeches. I know that will be really interesting. And it's concrete examples, it's practical examples. It's not just a theory, it's the reality. And this is why I think we're all lucky to be together and to be able to see what the present is able to give us to make not only a better world, but I would say a better quality of life for humankind. So thank you for the invitation here. See you next time with great pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now is the right time to invite Frédéric Clauss of Solaxis, which is the company focused on solar panels.
So, thank you. Before introducing Solaxis, does anybody know what is BIPV? Nobody? Nobody. That's too easy. But please, go ahead.
So it's building integrated photovoltaics.
You got it. So, where is Solar Access coming from? The first question that was raised 2014. Solar energy is a great energy. Why don't we see solar panels everywhere? You have an idea? I have always a nice picture to show. On the left, he put black panels. On the right, he used Solar Access panels. You see a difference? There is one. Huh? I'm talking about aesthetic. And that's one of the problems. We have so many surfaces in the cities and our houses that we don't use because a black panel may be on the roof, but on the facade or on, I would not put it in Prague on a roof because it's not convenient and probably you will not get the permission to do it. That's why we think bringing color to the panel, whatever color is, will facilitate the adoption of solar energy. And thinking on all the surfaces that are available in a town, why using agriculture field to build farms? Unnecessary. When you do a renovation of a house, instead of renewing your, or even a new building, you just put panels, solar panels, and you produce energy. The second topic, that's what we're fighting against. We call it the passive facade. The passive facade is a facade that does not produce anything. It just costs. You cost, you renovate again, it costs again. You know, it's a circle. And this circle, you have waste. With an active facade, when you do a renovation, we say, let's produce where you consume. It's logical. Why not putting the panels with the color you would like to have on your house and still producing on your facade and your rooftop the energy you need? Maybe it will not cover the whole energy that is needed for your daily needs. But it's a nice part. And that's part of the mix, energetic mix. So our aim is, at the end of the day, bring the construction world and the photovoltaic world together. Because there are two different worlds, they don't know each other today. Because the goal is, on one hand, because we, on our side, producing just the film that is going inside the solar panel. So we are compatible with any kind of solar panel in the world. So we have a technical discussion with the solar panel producers around the world to qualify them with our film. But most important, we have a funny and really exciting discussions with architects and engineering bureaus to tell them that now you can produce energy on your facade and still have an aesthetic and a nice building. And those are the two worlds we really want to bring together. As of today, those are the standard colors that are available. We are developing every day other colors based on demands on new projects. But we have around 15 colors, and they cover already a nice panel of requirements. What you have to keep in mind is when you talk to a solar panel producer, he's just thinking, how much does it cost per square meter, per watt peak I produce, blah, 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 blah. And it has to be as cheap as possible. But when you do a new building or renovation, mainly when it's a nice building with glass facades, etc., the price difference is marginal. Compared to a high-end facade with a BIPV facade with our film, there is almost no price difference. But the big difference is you will produce energy, electricity. The normal facade will just produce waste in certain years. So basic calculation, you are a return on investment between 5 and 6 years. Maybe a little bit more concrete, those are some projects we've done around the world. One, we got some prizes. It's the right one. The whole, that are 4 buildings, and the whole building is covered by solar panels. The brown, the white colors you see are solar panels. The building are producing more energy than they need on the building. It's a whole concept. Each owner of an apartment has an app, and he has so much kilowatt hour per day. And they have, even at the beginning when they bought the apartment, they get schooled, what they have to buy for the kitchen, etc., in order to choose the right apparel that consume less. And if they consume more than what is expected, they pay. But today, most of the owners have €0 francs to pay in terms of electricity. Those are other examples in China. China is really starting now to boom as well on that level. This is an interesting project we've done downtown historic center of Zurich. The building is protected, and the owner had to renovate the roof, and he wanted to put solar panels. And when he asked for the permission with the black panels, they said, no way. No way. We want to cope with the original colors. That's why we developed what we call the terracotta color, and they got a permit. And here you have 800 square meters of roof, solar panel, producing energy for 25 to 30 apartments. This is what you can do. This is another emblematic project, hope still decided soon. It will be in Sydney, the fish market. All the roofs are covered by solar panels. And this is, I think, the next step. When you think that aesthetic is not anymore a problem to produce electricity, why should you not do it? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frédéric. I'm going to copy this presentation. I just love it. Our final guest is Mirek Lizec, Executive Director of waste management company MIVA.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. I would rather stand here. Good evening. What a pleasure to stand in front of the live people. So, very excited to be here. My name is Mirek Lizec. I'm Executive Director of MIVA. MIVA stands for Minimum Waste. It's a technology company from Prague, and we have a mission to prevent packaging waste. I will show you in an upcoming few minutes what we try to do, or not only try, but we already started to execute. This is our enemy, standard linear supply chain. You know, Mr. Piccard was talking about that it's not only a problem about the managing the waste at the end of the supply chain, but it's mostly about wasting the resources at the beginning. This is where the classic single-use packaging is produced, delivered to the producer. Then first packaging waste is happening already on the level of the retailers. You can see at the back of their stores a bit like a big bulks of the secondary packaging. And then what happens at your house is that you waste away a lot of packaging again. And this is our challenge. This is what we try to change and what we try to do in our everyday life to change into those 3 classic loops. I will try to explain how we do it. I will start with the middle loop. This is the B2b loop, we call it. And this is where we actually apply packaging as a service. We have 12 liters packaging capsules that are smart. We call them smart. They are not smart by themselves, but together with the system, they are chipped. And we deliver them as a service to the food producers or non-food producers. They simply fill it in. They deliver it in standard logistics to the retailer through their warehouses to the stores. At the store, we have our smart refill stations where you very simply click the capsule in. Imagine it works like a cartridge at your home. You simply click it in. When it's empty, you click it out. And when actually the capsule is empty, it signalizes to the system that it's empty, come, replace me, and we collect them from the warehouse of the retailer to our service center, we clean them, and we get them ready for refill again. The capsules are actually designed to run at least 300 times. Honestly, not proven in the world still, because none of our capsules actually run 300 times. But I'm happy to say that it was estimated by the Czech Technology Institute in Prague. And it actually works in a way that it's tracked all the way around. You know, at the moment the producer actually packs the capsules, it uploads the data information about the product to the cloud. When it arrives to the store, the refill station actually reads from the data from the cloud what is inside, self-calibrates for the delivery, and pass the information to the consumer about the product, what is inside, about the allergens, content, expiration dates, and so on. What happens on the loop on your right is a consumer loop. Consumers actually can come to the store with any container that they have at home and actually shop in that. Or they can use actually our smart containers that are usually part of the installation in store. They are again smart and chipped, and they work together with the application. So anytime you use our container, and you actually link it to your application, you have all the information about the product you bought at your hand. It even has an expiration alert. So one day you can wake up and it says, eat the rice you bought, I don't know, a few months ago because it's going to expire. At the same time, it's a great, I would say, interface to possible smart kitchens, which is a high topic as well. So imagine that, I don't know, some of the producers of the kitchen systems, you know, will introduce smart shelves and they will communicate actually with our containers, saying like, look, your coffee is running under time, or it's not enough at home, so you should buy it, and so on. So it's another interface. The data behind actually a great asset for any brand to drive loyalty to such a system, because then any smart container can be a loyalty card. So imagine when anytime you use it, you can get a little discount because the company knows that you're using their container. It can be retailer, it can be actually the particular brand. What is quite interesting that we provide all these packagings against the deposit in the system. We don't sell it, so it stays in our possession, and it's there because through the data system we control it, we check it in our service center, and then when it's at the end of the lifespan, we actually send it to the recycle facility. It's controlled, pre-actually selected material. It's pre-agreed contract with the recycling facility, and a lot of the material has already, let's say, the future. It has future. The big headline says that if we bring the system to the perfection, and again it was done with the Czech Technology Institute here, we actually need only 10% of the packaging material to deliver same amount of the food or non-food in the system as single-use packaging. To make it more tangible for you, you have a few pictures. So this is the capsule on the left side. This is, I call it like a naked version of our smart module. Obviously, it can be nicely branded. You know. The module has integrated certified scale. It has actually a touch screen that guides shopper through the shopping experience, and is integrated printer, so it prints actually the barcode and the information about the product, you know, on the spot. And on the right side, you can see the actually one of the prototypes of the smart cups we used to have before. I will show you a bit of the shopping experience, you know. So here we can see the smart cup. The person, actually it's probably my hand, I don't remember, is unlocking the dispenser. They're actually locked for an accidental touch, so if the goods doesn't fall on the ground. At the moment it's unlocked, it changed the color. By depressing actually the container against the dispenser, you get your goods. Then you put it on the scale. Because the scale actually knows what dispenser you used, it automatically shows the price, the product, and whatever you want to show on the screen for your customers. And it actually subtracts the weight of the container at the same time because the container was recognized in the system. If you are satisfied with the amount of the goods, you can add more. If you are satisfied with that, you simply touch on the screen like you print the label, you get the label, and you go to the cash desk in a very standard way. Why we are actually dealing with so much data, why we are doing such a stuff. From the very beginning, what we're trying to do is make a system that is scalable for the biggest brands, for the biggest retailers, and the biggest, I would say, participants on the pollution of the packaging waste in the world. I truly admire all the pioneers, in the packaging-free sectors, but I think the current systems are not scalable because they don't have enough hygiene standards involve any, I would say, protection of the quality of the goods and so on. And this is what we try to bring in our system. We actually passed all the necessary certification processes with food. We went through the big companies' certifications like Nestle, for instance, talking about Switzerland. And right now we are trying to build together with the large retailers within the Europe, actually the system, logistics system for the reverse logistics system and build it in a way that it's truly scalable. So it's a process of the learning. And I would like to invite you, it's not far from here, I think it's 4 or 5 subway stations to do Albert Chodov. It's the so far largest installations of our technology together with Albert, it's our Holderless company. More than 90 products actually sold in our system, and you can easily come and shop there. And as Mr. Piccard said, please become the ambassadors of the innovations. Come, try. If you like it, please adopt it in your daily routines or at least weekly routines or your shopping routines. Share it with your friends, with your colleagues, let them to come. And please stress the curiosity, try any new technology that can help. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you will still enjoy the rest of the evening. Bye.
Mirek, thank you very much for fascinating speech, but as we had the pleasure of chatting last night over the dinner, I know a whole lot about your business, and therefore I would like to start with Q&A with you, because your presentation begs the question. How do you reconcile the fact that the climate change, that all those challenges are by nature global, but very often you have to fight local specific, local challenges, local laws, local technical norms, and so forth, local political preferences.
Yes.
So I know that you are doing it. So from your perspective, it's not going to be theoretical point of view, but how do you in your day-to-day business fight this problem?
Can you hear me? So mic number 5, thank you. Yeah, I think, I remember yesterday Mr. Piccard said, that it's the business that should be in charge, and that's why actually tend in my everyday business go to the, I would say, international companies that has I would say, reach beyond the borders, because, I showed you Albert here, but I think I can say here that Albert Heijn in Netherlands is a next in row because they see a positive example in here. So then it's much easier to actually open the door for other countries within such a network. I think the boundaries. What helps definitely is being part of the European Union because then you have certifications working across the markets. This is the key challenge. For instance, right now we are very close to have our first installation in the UK. Very painful process because of the Brexit, obviously, because it's completely changed and nobody knows actually what certifications we need right now there. Okay. But And that's one of the things. So obviously, we have a lot of interest from the States, because especially the coast of the States, there are a lot of people that are actually living with innovations and so on. So this is true barrier for us because honestly, we are still at the beginning, being being still startup, so we don't have large funds actually to go through all those processes, so we need partners, But I must say, what is probably the most difficult is that there is no clear framework, I would say, for the legal framework for circular economy and application of the reuse of the packaging and such a stuff. So when you go to Germany, they are much more stiff about the interpretation. So for instance, for them, it's getting better, but for them, just imagine that you as a customer bring your own container to the store is almost like a no-go, or at least was like a year ago. Now it's much better because they see it on other markets. They see it in France, they see it in the Netherlands, they see it in other markets, So the landscape is really very difficult to understand, but with the help of the business partners, but you have really committed good business partner with the power, with a good quality department that helps you understand what certifications you need to actually proceed through that. It's a painful process, but when you win with them, then it's much easier to do it in any other market. So I'm not sure I answered your question, but hopefully I did.
Thank you very much. Frédéric, I have the same question for you, because even in your business, it must be even more challenging, because you showed us some of your fascinating projects in China. We all know that China is one of the world's biggest polluters, not necessarily per capita, but in a total. How do you find that environment, and how do you think technologies like yours can make a global impact?
For us? You hear me? Hello? Hello?
It's a number 6.
Number 6? You have all the numbers in your mind. That's good. Yeah. Amazing.
You've taken mine. So
Hello? No? No?
Number 6? I can pass
maybe I get it.
They have a microphone for you.
No? No. Thank you. No. Work? No? Okay.
Just shout.
Yield towards the right of that, because they're both working.
Yeah, sure. Now it's working. Okay. Our goal, we are working with the construction within an old industry, with old regulations, old habits, and a newer one with the solar panel producers. They are around till the 70s, but they are evolving new technologies. I have an example. I was discussing 3 weeks ago with a big engineering bureau in France, talking about BIPV. Now you know what it is. And one of the engineers was just explaining to me all the standards we have to meet. Some are unachievable. And at the end of the discussion, I said, okay, it's probably easier to build a nuclear plant in France than putting solar panels on a facade. But having said that, politics, regulator, you are playing an incredible role. And as a last example, Switzerland, they use the carrot. For so many kilowatt installed on a roof or a facade, per 1 kilowatt, you're getting 250 euros per kilowatt installed. It's a one-off. It's an incentive, and it's working. And it will start April 1st. Beginning of the year, we had a lot of demands from Israel, mainly Tel Aviv. Municipality of Tel Aviv has decided mid this year, for any new building, so many square meters built, you have to produce so many energy. And the percentage of self-production of energy will increase over the years. But it has already been set just the right size that the roof is not anymore enough. You have to go on a facade. So that's the kind of incentive. In Switzerland, there's more the carrot, and Israel, they're a little bit more straightforward, let's say it that way. But again, regulation, it's key.
Thank you very much. In Czech Republic, we are better at using stick, I have to say, because if you want to install photovoltaics on your roof here in this country, the limit is 10 kilowatt hours peak. And if you go over that, you are considered industrialist. You are considered the same company as the biggest utility company in the country, and you get to get special license and all of that. So that needs definitely to change.
You have to get rid of the monopolies.
A slight twist on this view is when you mentioned that you got inspiration from Netherlands, from visiting other countries, from seeing how different things can be, even though on theory they are the same things you've been studying here at the university. How do we make sure that we are not just those islands of excellence? How do we make sure that at least the entire Europe, but preferably the entire globe, gets connected on your ideas?
Well, I really believe that we have to start to communicate in the same language, and it seems like a super starting point, but in Czech Republic we have really nice solutions, but rarely we communicate them among the European countries. I've been experiencing many varieties of Erasmus program, from studies, like being a student, then doing my internship, then using Erasmus for the beginning of my entrepreneurship, let's call it this way. And right now we are working with Erasmus Plus program to exchange experience with other countries. And I'm always surprised that when we are having our partners from Slovakia and Spain coming on May, and they are so enthusiastic about learning more what is going on in Czech Republic, and they are always saying, guys, you are doing so many things, but you do not communicate because you think it's like normal, you know, nothing extra. You don't feel like presenting it as something what's worth to share. And I think that there is a big lack of what we can do better for it. And I think that in Czech way, we usually do things and we do not believe that it's good enough, that it's perfect, that it's something to share. And I see it in many sectors. When I'm comparing the innovation in industry, we are second in most industrial country, and I know what's going on in steel production, in automotive sector. I'm always surprised and asking, like, why don't we know about that? And many times companies are saying, we didn't know that is something extra. We just find this solution because we wanted to save some money for waste management or electricity or something. So first thing is to really communicate in English, at least a bit, or use translator, whatever. And then come and see. As Bertrand said at the beginning, people believe once they see it. And I know that if you go to self-sufficient farm and you see how is it connected, that it makes sense, that it's profitable, you just go and you believe in that. If you read it, it's like, oh yeah, there are so many things that can go wrong. I don't believe that it can be done. So I think there is a lack of opportunities that we are taking into consideration, into really exchanging. And I really believe that during the Czech presidency, and we have you from the Ministry of Environment, we will be able to show off. We will be able to use the European Stakeholder Economy Platform to share cases, and that we will get the most out of it.
Thank you very much. David, I have the toughest version of this question for you, because so far what we've been discussing is, how do you make sure that the pioneers, the leaders, can influence the followers? How do the leaders influence the opposers? How do the leaders, the good people, make sure that those who for whatever reason are against everything we've been discussing here, either for money or for political agenda or whatever, how do we cope with that?
Well, I think my answer would be that you don't. To be honest, I mean, you have to work with those people who are willing to work with you. So it's a question of looking at which markets are ready, looking at which people have the courage to work with you, and using those as examples, because I think you can only lead by example. So, I mean, that's clearly something we are busy trying to do, is to understand what is the situation in different industries, be it in, for recycling and waste, or being it in smart cities, or looking at elements of the circular economy, or maybe batteries, hydrogen, whichever of the niches, if you want to call them that, the whole industries in their own right. What is the status in what country? What is the level of ambition, or what is the level of, as we were saying, regulation? Which countries are more open to running test projects or to running, trials that you can bring new technology in, albeit a smaller way, but at least to create a successful demonstration which can then be used for emulation and to amplify that message across a region, but also maybe back home, if that is the case. And I think it's exactly that. It's about finding partnerships that can work and using those to drive forward technology successfully. And in that, I'd like just to briefly, sort of rebound on what you were saying. You were talking about Erasmus, which is a bit of a difficult subject for Switzerland. But one thing we are still heavily involved with currently is the EEN network, Europe Enterprise Network, which is also a fabulous network of experts, a network of companies where you can look for partners, where you can share ideas or needs. And I certainly encourage companies and people to make the use of that. SGE is also supporting that within Switzerland to help you find appropriate technology partners.
Thank you very much, David. Before I put a version of this question to Petra, let me open this question with my personal experience. In our company, we only drive electric cars, and on our head office building, we have photovoltaics with the accumulators. For the cars, we never used any subsidy, and I feel that here in the Czech Republic, the subsidies for electric cars could potentially do more harm than the good, because car is still seen as a status symbol. It's still perceived as something a bit exclusive, and electric cars happen to be expensive. And how do you explain to a voter on the street who may be driving 20 years old junkie, whatever, that the government is subsidizing purchase of brand new cars? How do you do that?
Well, that's a difficult question. I had prepared a completely different answer. What I would like to maybe connect with the former speakers is that at Czech Invest we also focus on examples of good practice. So in order to do so, we do organize a lot of seminars to educate, but we are more focused on companies, small and medium enterprises and startups. We do not educate individuals. We are focused on the industry and private sector. So in order to educate them, we have seminars. For example, the last year we organized a seminar focused on circular economy. And there we show examples of best practices, the leaders, and we hope that we will motivate companies to follow this example and to also adopt sustainable approaches or circular approaches. We also try to connect companies with R&D institutions in order to support new innovations that bring new solutions that are more environmentally friendly, not only economically efficient. So I'm sorry, I don't have answer for your question.
Maybe David will have one. Let's put it into the broader perspective. One of my other activities is that I work as an investment evangelist. I explain people how important it is to invest for their retirement and so forth. And very often people tell me, you know, Radek, this is not for me. This is just for the rich and successful and wealthy people. It's not for me. Sometimes I feel that topics we've been debating could fall into the exactly same trap, that people who may not live in a privileged environment, who may be living in the areas of this country where life isn't so shiny like here in Prague, may actually feel they are being left behind, that it's not for them. How do we make sure that we don't lose anybody?
That's a very difficult social question for someone who is very interested in technology. But I think, if we look across the range of technologies, the question is, if, as you're suggesting in your example, a particular group, if we want to call them social group, the question would be more, what are the technologies that would be applicable to their lives, that would make their lives more comfortable, would be cheaper, or would be more secure? Because I think, if we look across clean technologies, the example I always liked, when I started with clean tech, I was maybe a little bit naive in that sense, and I was always really fascinated by this concept of BAT, best available technologies. And I rapidly realized that that isn't actually the way forward. But BAT is, but it's best applicable technology. The question is, what's your problem? If you have a hole in the wall, a window is a solution. If you have a double-glazed window, then it's a triple-glazed window. So it's really just a question of finding solutions that make sense in the particular context. So I think that would be my answer of how you achieve inclusivity, is by offering solutions that make sense to the people you're talking to.
Thank you very much, because I think this is absolutely paramount importance, that one thing is to organize events like these, but the real problem is, how do we make sure that it's broadly shared, all those values? And when I was a little boy, this entire country was circular. You haven't thrown away anything. The old shoes, the old jeans, old anything was always saved for the next generation, or friend of the friend, and so forth. I actually don't see this is a bad idea. And Sonia, what do you think?
Well, it reminds me the story of my grandparents. They usually ask me what I'm doing, and I'm trying to explain them, and the answer is, it's been here forever. And when I'm discussing about new business models, about the textile that I'm interested right now, and I'm doing my PhD on that, my grandparents told me the story that usually, as you said, it was reused for generations, and at the end, if you couldn't reuse it anymore, they were sending it to Slovakia, to one company. They were really taking like small pieces out of the textile, they were making carpets out of it, and they were selling it, sending it back. So you could see your old T-shirt being a part of the carpet, and it had the whole story, and I was thinking, oh my God, this is exactly what the companies are looking for, have a loyalty from customers, having a story behind, and la-di-da, high added value. And I think that if we combine these old stories with the clean tech that was presented right now by previous speakers, this is the way where we can start. And I'm coming from a small village. We are right now discussing about solar panels, so I have to get your contact, because we have the problem with aesthetics. Everybody's complaining that it's not so nice to have it on the roof. But if you explain what's behind, what's the return of investment, everybody calculate. At village, you always calculate in the long term, because you know that somebody will take over with, I'm coming from agriculture family. So I see that if you take small examples, you explain the whole idea on something that people can really understand. If you explain that if you recycle waste instead of paying for getting rid of it, people easily adopt the whole scheme. They easily adopt the scheme of deposit schemes, and they learn how to get money out of what they are throwing. And this is something what we have to reinventing what's been here already, and then we can scale it up with the big companies. But you do not have to, as you said, I not totally understand, be focused on big cities, the same with the small villages, and bringing these examples, which is already happening, but it's not so well communicated.
Frédéric, my feeling is that today's agenda is not about one magical solution. I don't think there is one silver bullet which will like solve all of those troubles. But if you were to choose one technology or one way of doing business or one agenda, what would that be? What do you think is the most promising thing for the next decade?
I still believe it's solar. What else? No, more seriously, there is a mix, because solar energy will not solve everything. We all know that. And you will have nuclear plants, you will have etc., etc., etc. But think that when you have installed your panels, the energy is free of charge. And think that the first panels with really old technologies installed in the 70s are still producing. So it doesn't mean that you have to change them in 10 years. No, today the average guarantee that the PV solar manufacturers are giving are about 30 years. It's a no-brainer. And the last word is autonomy. Autonomy. And during those days, it's a big topic.
I would love to have an entire conference on the autonomy, because I think that will be a huge paradigm shift in the labor market. I'm not sure we're quite ready for that. Mirek, my question to you is, I loved your presentation, I love your work. When do you think it will be standard? When do you think it will be a norm that I would walk into the convenience store and all I will see would be your dispensers?
Okay. It's a great question. If you ask me 2 years back, I would say like 5 years. But as we see, like there's always some disturbing thing in the world, it's been COVID recently, and it really postponed like several implementation on our side. Now we see like that the COVID, hopefully, like we solved at least up to a certain level, and new like circumstances appeared, so it's very difficult to say. But seeing like the shift in the mindset of the companies, the businesses I've been talking in the last 3 years, I'm starting to be slightly more positive and optimistic, I must say, because there's an understanding much more that it's not about like a green marketing anymore. It's not about just building one store here in Chodov. I'm very happy to say that the guys we are talking here, they got the point. We started building like the models if we are going to spread it across the country, what it means for the price, what it means for the communication, what it means for the operations behind. And this is the debate I love to be right now in, because if you are in the debates, if you create the models, and then when you come to the agreement, you can build a plan. And I strongly believe with some of the companies, we are able within 3, 4, 5 years, cover the entire network within the particular countries in Europe. And this backbone, actually, if we build it, then it's very easy in those operations to click the others, even the smaller operations, small stores, because reverse logistics work in a scale. We are fighting right now something that was brought to the perfection last 60 years. I'm talking about like a linear supply chain, cuts here, savings here, and so on, so make it like more and more like efficient. And we are pretty sure, and I showed it in my presentation, if you need just 10% of the material, there must be a space for the margin of big scale. It must be. We just need to properly calculate it, model, agree with the companies to go that, and step by step involve and build like it a sustainable business. And this is the hardest part. Most of the people still see the refill station in the store because it's the fancy thing, My daughter loves it, But the truth is that the most difficult is build the backbone and change the mindset of the companies that this is possible. And to a question you gave like to my colleague here is that I think it is about changing the way we design the thing, change the thing we design, the processes, operation, how we think. And this is the most difficult. It's just to step out to everyday businesses. This is the most difficult, I think. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to say I just loved our panel. I mean, I could be throwing those questions at these guys all night long, but I would much prefer to give the chance to you now. If you have any type of question to any of your panelists, please raise your hand. We have microphones. Be very happy to entertain any question.
I have it.
You have the microphone.
Okay, there is a gentleman in the very back.
I know,
There's another mic.
Yeah, good.
You don't need to run the aisle.
Hello. You've been talking about solar panels. Problem, I think, with solar panels is if there is no sun, you don't produce anything, so you don't have autonomy. You still need those nuclear plants. You still need those gas plants. What's your solution to this problem?
What you have to understand, even when it's not sunny, you produce.
Much less. So do you plant batteries or something?
You have other clean techs that are in the battery, in the storage. That's not our aim. And we do not produce solar panels. We produce the colored film that enables any producer around the world to produce a colored panel. But coming back to your question, maybe I can emphasize, because people are saying, yes, wintertime, it's complicated, etc. If you have our film included on a roof and on a facade, during the wintertime, the facade will produce more than the roof. During the summertime, it's vice versa. Coming back to your question, when I have a lot of sun, I produce a lot, right? If you take a black panel today, you get a theoretical performance. But this performance is measured at 25 degrees C. What's the average temperature you have here? 25, 30 degrees? 30 degrees during summertime, August, when it's hot?
25.
Yeah, okay. So, the performance of the panel, by an increase of the temperature of the panel itself by 2 degrees, you lose 1% performance. Keep in mind, it has been tested at 25, and operation temperature during summertime is close to the 65 degrees, sorry. So the performance is decreasing. With our film, you have 20 degrees saving in temperature, because we filter a part of the spectrum of the solar. I haven't really answered all your questions, but just to give you...
Well, at night you have no sun, so...
Do we have any other question, please? Můžeme mikrofon dostat tady v první řadě, děkuju. Tady. Už ho kolegyně nese, hned je u vás.
My name is Patrik Reichl, Czech Business Council for Sustainable Development. With appreciation of this event, I have a question to Mr. Avery. You brought from Switzerland 1,000+ innovative ideas. This country is, let's say, available for cooperation. Many research institutes, many creative people, many examples of business. My question is, how can we transfer as many of these innovative technologies to the Czech Republic? Is there a way to cooperate with you, with your institutions, to mobilize our partners? I think that would be the most effective answer for Swiss being in the Czech Republic for clean tech.
So, thank you very much for the question, and I think there are many different levels at which that can be answered. Obviously, one is at the business level, people looking directly at the solutions, contacting the companies. One is clearly also the role of the respective chambers of commerce here in Switzerland, or back in Switzerland, I should say, and also here in the Czech Republic. And I think there is also, as you say, a level of collaboration at a more academic level. And my partner, if you want, our sister organizations such as Swissnex and InnoSwiss are the right partners for such collaboration in Switzerland, and they are also doing, like we are, outreach to know their counterparts in different countries. And then I guess finally the last level is the political level, the work that's being done by our diplomatic services to foster joint collaboration, joint meetups, as such a meeting today, because I think it's exactly that is what we need, is this ongoing dialogue.
And I think this is a fantastic closing for our afternoon session, because thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. As David was saying, without forums like these, it will never happen. And that is why we are so grateful. Thank you very much to our fantastic panelists. Thank you very much to everybody for coming, and hope to see you over a glass of wine later. Thank you very much.